going on, everyone? Another day, another Portland Trailblazers Damian Lillard potential trade update. This time it looks like the Miami Heat are really heating up in a direction of a trade for Damian Lillard. So the Portland Trailblazers and the Miami Heat have made some progress in the last 48 to 72 hours on a potential Damian Lillard trade per Greg Sullivander. So obviously there's been all of these breadcrumbs of Damian Lillard potentially having a very soon trip to Miami and joining that organization, right? We've seen Damian Lillard post and then delete shortly after a post saying basically that he was going to be a Miami Heat very soon. And that was 2 days ago. So it makes sense and it kind of fits the timeline in which these reports have talked about in the last 2 to 3 days. We have seen some real ramp up towards a potential Damian Lillard trade. Obviously, in the Colorado State game, we talked about that yesterday, that, hey, look, Kyle Lowry and Chauncey Billups, they were hanging out together in the skybox. Now, again, take that as you may, right? It is something that could just be, right, total coincidence. It's prime time, right? Colorado, you got all the hype and excitement. They both could have just been there enjoying the game. There were plenty of other stars, plenty of other athletes, even Kawhi Leonard was there. But it's just the fact that Kyle Lowry and the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers and Chauncey Billups were both hanging out together, living their best life together, having conversations, right? And it's just, when there's smoke, there's fire, right? And it's like when you start seeing several things that are kind of coincidental, it's like, at what point is it no longer coincidence? At what point is it like, okay, now we have this and this and this, right? It's kind of like, the Always Sunny meme with the board and there's all the connections and you're trying to piece it all together. It's something along those lines, of course, but it's nonetheless, it's raising an eyebrow, right? It's like, okay, but all of this has fallen into this last few day period, right? You see Damian Lillard make the post that he's going to be a Miami Heat soon, deletes it, and then you see Kyle Lowry hanging out with Chauncey Billups, who's the head coach, literally the next day. It's very strange. It's very odd. But regardless, right? Miami and Portland, they've had this struggle. They've had this battle over this entire offseason. Both sides have kind of thrown some jabs and whatnot. And the media has kind of, made it a point in a lot of Portland's side of Portland isn't really handling this well. I mean, there were several reports that came out even yesterday just going in on Portland and how they failed this offseason. And look, they failed Damian Lillard regardless, right? And they have handled this situation, in my opinion, very poorly. Now, some people might feel otherwise, but it's just, you're putting yourself in such a predicament that is completely unnecessary, right? Damian Lillard doesn't have and isn't going to have this huge market. You should have traded Damian Lillard several years ago when you were blowing it up and trading CJ McCollum and all that. This is something that you should have done 2 years ago, right? And you prolonged it, and a lot of that is Damian Lillard's fault also, right? Dame, he chose to sign that new contract. He should have asked out a long time ago, but he wanted to give Portland an opportunity. And I can't knock Damian Lillard for saying, okay, I'll be patient. You guys are unloading all these guys. You're getting rid of Covington, Batum. You're selling off CJ. You're basically just having to fire sale for all the pieces. And you're asking me to remain patient and asking me to, stick around and let's build a new contender. Okay, I'm going to give you that opportunity. And then the opportunity that you use is to go sign Jeremy Grant and re-sign Nurkic. That's your big, that's it. We're turning it around. Right? It's and then people wonder why Dame ends up wants out. And then they go and extend Jeremy Grant to a big contract. And now you're locked into Jeremy Grant. You're locked into Nurkic. And it's bad decision after bad decision after bad decision with Portland. The best player Damian Lillard has ever played with is CJ McCollum, who's a worse version of him. Right? And it's like his entire tenure there, all they've done is just overpay for role guys, for rotation guys. They've never actually made a push for anybody, right? They've never tried to make that big splash like you see some of these teams, even some of these small market teams. I mean, look at like Toronto, for example, right? At what point do you just push your chips to the table, go get a Kawhi Leonard, and try to win an NBA championship? At least you can say you at least did something, right? And it is that issue of like, you know, like when Portland made it to the Western Conference Finals. Nobody thought they were going to win that year. Like, I don't even think most Portland fans thought that they were going to win that year. But we've seen it with Dallas, and we've seen it especially with the Atlanta Hawks, where you have these teams that felt like they were good enough or they were right there, and then ended up making decisions that tried to go all in, but weren't really ready to go all in, right? Like, but at least with Portland, I don't think that they were far off, right? But they went the opposite approach of like, we're good enough, let's just stand pat. And it's like, everyone else is getting better, everyone else is continuing to improve, and you're just standing pat. And it's like, I can't knock Damian Lillard. Again, he definitely holds some accountability, but I can't knock him for being loyal, right? Like, so many people go after these NBA players for not sticking to their guns, and then look what happens. Like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, and another guy that's in a very similar situation is Giannis. Giannis could be out the door in a couple years. We could be right back here, but with Giannis. Because his best player he's ever played with is what? Chris Middleton? Right? And it's like, you see these guys and they're looking and they're like, dude, you know, Phoenix Suns are basically trying to put together a super duper duper team. You have all these other teams that are improving and getting better. I mean, the Sixers, like even last year, the Sixers go get James Harden. And it's like, you know, the Nets, they add, you know, James Harden the year prior to a KD and Kyrie. And then, you know, you see the Lakers, they turn around and then they go and add a bunch of depth and talent. And then you see the Denver Nuggets add some pieces that were missing pieces, but the blue chip guys. And then, like, you're seeing all these teams try to improve and upgrade, right? The Boston Celtics, they go get Kristaps Porzingis, right? It's just like, you're seeing guys like Damian Lillard and Giannis going like, what are we doing here? Right? Like, Giannis following the same suit. You saw Portland re-sign Nurkic and give Jeremy Grant a big long-term contract. And the Bucks re-signed Brook Lopez and gave Chris Middleton a long-term contract. So they're basically locked in. So Giannis is looking at it as like, I'm stuck. And that's where Damian Lillard is. But the difference is that Damian Lillard, his time is ticking, right? He doesn't have much more time in the league. And it's like, at what point do I get to like actually go somewhere and try to contend? That's why I don't knock him for wanting to go to Miami. And I do hope he goes to Miami, because he gets to go to his destination. I do think it's a good fit. I do think he would have a real chance to win an NBA championship. You know, maybe not so much this year, right? I mean, we'll see how all the dominoes fall when all is said and done, if this deal ever gets done. But it's more so about getting him now, right? It's more so about going and getting him this year and then following that up by adding the pieces necessary to contend, right? Talked about Kevin Durant last year, right? You saw the Phoenix Suns go and make a push for Kevin Durant. It wasn't because they were going to win the NBA championship last year. Like, everyone had them checked off as NBA champions, and I was sitting here preaching, it's not going to happen. They're not good enough yet to win an NBA championship. They're not winning anything. But I was like, one, it gives them a shot. No one would be that surprised if they did win, but it's not about this year. It's about next year, which is now this year, right? And now you saw that they went and got Bradley Beal. They went and got some nice little complimentary pieces. Same thing with Dallas. Although I thought Dallas kind of did a poor job in the offseason, but time will tell. We'll see. But they went and got Kyrie Irving and traded all their defensive guys and missed the play-in, but it wasn't for that year. It was like, we're not winning regardless this year. Let's go get Kyrie Irving, bring him to this roster, and then we can fill in the pieces following that. And that's kind of what Miami would be doing. Miami would, yes, absolutely have a chance of winning, right? Miami every year just seemed to be right there, even without Damian Lillard. So you add Dame, and that will really help. But yes, they have an opportunity to win, but more likely than not, they probably don't win it this year. But now they can go and incorporate him in a Heat culture, go get a bunch of guys that can fit in. They're great at finding diamonds in the roughs. They're going to end up having a deep roster with their big three of Lillard, Butler, and Bam. And they're going to be off to the races. And regardless, they're still going to be a very good team this year, right? Like, I do think if I had to bet on it, I think Dame is a Heat before training camp, because this has to get done. It makes zero sense to keep Damian Lillard. Zero. You have an entire young core and a guy in Scoot Henderson who's supposed to take over the point guard duties and be the guy, right? So now you're going to waste a year of him growing and developing and being the focal point of this roster, and all the young guys getting their opportunity and their shine and having their bumps and bruises along the way. And all of that is going to stop because you're going to have to integrate Damian Lillard, who doesn't want to be there, who's going to take 22 shot attempts per game, or 21, which is what he averages, right? So 21 shot attempts per game. He's going to be the main guy in the focal point. Everyone else is going to be secondary. And it's just, for what? For what? Just so you can say, we got to keep him. You're not going to get a king's ransom for Damian Lillard. You're not getting a Rudy Gobert level trade. It's just not, the market isn't there. It's obvious. It's apparent, right? Like, Miami will give you whatever you want, whatever that they reasonably can give you. Go get everything from them. Take everything that you possibly can from them and trade them Damian Lillard, and then figure it out from there. Right? Figure out which young guys you like, which young guys you don't. Start selling some of those guys off. Get some other draft picks, stack up, and do things properly. They have a real chance to finally do things right. Right? It's just, can Portland do that? They have a real opportunity with a great young core. If Scoot Henderson is anything close to what he's projected to be, he'll be a better player than Damian Lillard. So, you're in good hands, right? You're talking about a legit two-way combo guard that is just hyper athletic and dynamic. And you have the potential to build a real championship level roster, attract other pieces, attract other players, actually build and establish a culture and do things correctly. Not overpaying and having your dynamic duo be Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, right? Like, they have an opportunity. Do it right. I hope that this gets done. I hope it gets done soon. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Think it gets done? Do you want it to get done? Let me know down in the comments.